Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Honor to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. My utmost respect to the perfectly enlightened Samma Sambuddha, the noble doctrine of the Buddha, and the noble Mahasangha, the disciples of the Buddha. Hello everyone, welcome to our weekly Sunday Dhamma Talk Series. Today we are going to discuss with you another very important sutta called Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa Sutta. So this Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa Sutta can be really helpful to all of us. I think I would like to say this can be especially helpful to many of our practitioners. When you practice meditation or even in your day-to-day life, Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa Sutta can be really helpful. So removal of distracting thoughts. This is Majjhima Nikaya 20. Removal of distracting thoughts. A lot of people today have this problem, distracting thoughts. How to remove this distracting thoughts is what you need to learn today in this wonderful sutta. I hope everyone can hear me. So, in this Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa Sutta, how to remove distracting thoughts. When you are meditating, for example, many of those distracting thoughts come. That is definitely happening. But even more happens in day-to-day life. If you do not meditate, it is even more distracting. So I think it is very important to all of us to think of this important sutta. I hope these techniques can be very helpful to all of you. Whether you are a meditation practitioner or whether you are a student or whether you are somebody who is so much overwhelmed with so many different distracting thoughts, this is a sutta that I highly recommend. You need to read this sutta, you need to learn these techniques. So Vitakka here in this sutta is mentioned two words actually, Vitakka and Saṇṭhāṇa. According to Pali Text Society dictionary, Vitakka means reflection, V plus Takka, reflection or thought or thinking. In jhanic factors, we also know this Vitakka as initial application, and Saṇṭhāṇa means Saṅpurva Tha or Stha, that means configuration, position, composition, nature, shape or form. So these different meanings are given for these two Pali words, Vitakka and Saṇṭhāṇa. And so the sutta has been translated by many scholars. Bhikkhu Thanissaro calls it as the reflection of thoughts. Pia 10 calls it as the discourse on the stillings of thoughts. Bhikkhu Sujato in Sutta Central calls it as how to stop thinking. Bhikkhu Bodhi calls it as removal of distracting thoughts. And Bhante Sudaso in Empty Cloud, he calls it as stabilization of thought. I.B. Horner also calls it a discourse on the forms of thought. So now we can see this same Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa Sutta has been translated in many different ways, but they all have almost the same idea, like how to get connected, how to be focused, how to practice deep focus when there are so many distractions around us, how to practice deep focus. I remember yesterday I was conducting a short guided meditation to some young children who visited the temple. And so I was guiding the meditation. I did the Metta Bhavana meditation. And at the end of the meditation, I was just asking them, how did it go? I noticed that many of them had very hard time focusing. That was very intentional for me also to do that. So that's why I also wanted to ask them how did it go. And many of them said they could not focus because they were thinking of shopping for the New Year and the Christmas around. So although they came here to the temple, they really wanted to spend some quality time here. The mind was so clouded with so many thoughts. This is the problem many people have. So either you go to your past, or when you sit closing your eyes, you either go to your past memories, and it is so difficult to concentrate. And then also many of them complain, we just go to the future memory or future plans, either to the present or to the past. Our mind is wandering, jumping back and forth. So we need to be really mindful about that. When you want to meditate, if you want to sit for something, like to spend some quality time with the meditation, because you don't meditate forever, you meditate only for a certain period of time, certain time of your day, like half an hour, 1 hour, or whatever. Then during that time, you should be able to completely um, make yourself available during that time. So this sutta can be really helpful, I think, to how to get into this deep focus thing. As I really like that book, I always recommend the book by Carl Newport, Deep Focus, is a very helpful book. And also another book he mentioned, he wrote another book called Digital Minimalism. These two books can be really helpful to those people who have difficulty in focusing. And then again, actually, the Buddha had mentioned this, had practically applied these techniques long time ago, 2500 years ago. So this sutta, let's see how it can be helpful to us. So in the sutta, we have 5 factors, as I mentioned. Adhichitta manuyuttena bhikkave bhikkhuna pancha nimittani kalena kalang manasikatabbani katamani pancha. So from time to time, the monks have to focus on this. They have to pay attention to these 5 factors. That is Anyanimitta Pabba, Adinama Pabba, Asati Pabba, Vitakka Mula Bheda Pabba, and Abhinigganthana Pabba. So these are the 5 factors that you have to pay attention to by a different sign that is wholesome, called Anyanimitta Pabba, thought displacement. So when you want to remove distraction, if you meditate, you suddenly find some distraction, then you need to focus on this. Anyanimitta, that is, you have to replace the thought. This is actually a very powerful psychological training also can be a very good psychological um, re- uh, remedy for many problems. And by examining its danger, vitakkanang adinavang, aversion therapy, it's another powerful way to get rid of this distraction. Vitakkanang adinavang. So you see the danger, disadvantage of the vitakkas that you have, of those distractions that you have. You need to think of it and then you get rid of them. And then we also have amanasikara, that is by disregarding them. This also needs some training. You can do it right away, but non-attention avoidance is again a very important practice. We can actually practice this one more in our what you call walking meditation. When you meditate, when you walk in meditation, this amanasikara pabba can be very helpful, or disregarding. Let's say you walk and you see someone coming towards you, but you have already decided not to pay attention to that. So you're not interested in seeing that person. And let's say now you see a bird, or you see some beautiful tree or flower or something around, and you are not interested. You don't pay attention to that. You should be able to disregard them. This is the idea while walking. I think in the walking meditation, this can be trained very well, because you can walk outside. And when you walk, you can actually see, it's not like closed eyes, so it's open eyes. So it's natural that you might be able to see certain things. So you can practice it, how to pay non-attention, how to train this non-attention or avoidance. Even though you see someone coming or something nice, or even you can hear something, but you are not interested, you should be able to get rid of that thought by stilling thought formations. This is the other one called Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa. This is actually the title of the sutta. So thought reduction or mental analysis. Over here, we can also think of the thoughts. We can still the thoughts. We can focus more again on this. The last one it is called last resort, and this is actually not happening many times in the Buddha's teachings. But this is really very strenuous work, like teeth clenching and tongue pressing. When you do this teeth clenching and tongue pressing, that should be the last resort. You try all these previous techniques, how to get rid of the distraction. If it does not happen still, then you need to focus. You need to make really strong attempt. Okay, I'm not going to, even if you have some really powerful emotion or thought coming up and distracting you, you're not paying attention to that. You push your tongue towards the palate, upper palate, and the teeth. Then you also clench your teeth clenching like this, and then press the tongue very hard towards the upper palate. That way you can also get rid of some of those distractions. Let's see how it goes, how the sutta discusses about this thing. So over here I want to say like adhichitta manuyuktena, this word is very important, involved with higher mind. So adhichitta, chitta is mind, so adhichitta is naturally dealing with something not regular activities. So higher than ordinary wholesome mind, especially for meditation or vipassana, this can be really applied. And also these five techniques, these are not to be done like all the time. From time to time, the Buddha said, "Kalena kala." That is the idea here. Kalena kala means from time to time. So from time to time, the practitioner should pay attention to that. But having said that, this can also be very helpful to all the other people. Like if you are a student or if you are someone who is really dealing with something, this again can be very helpful. So uh, we should not underestimate that power as well. So the first one is Anya Nimitta Pabba. Anya Nimitta. Nimitta is sign. I think many of you must have heard this word Nimitta. If you meditate, you find this word quite often. Anya means different or other. Anya Nimitta Pabba, different sign. So here, Idha Bhikkhave Bhikkhuna, Yang Nimittang Agama, Yang Nimittang Manasi uppajja manasang hi uppajjanti papaka akusala dhamma akusala vitakka chandupa sanghita api dosupa sanghita api mohupa sanghita api tena bhikkave bhikkhuna tam ha nimitta anyang nimittang manasikatabang kusala upasanghita. So here monks, when the monk is attending to some sign, mental thought or mental object, on account of which there arise in him or her bad unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate or delusion, then that monk should turn his attention away from those signs, turning to a different sign connected with the wholesome. So now we need to pay attention to some certain things here, like Chandupa Sanghitapi, for thoughts connected with desire. So these are actually some of the other practices that we can pay attention to. When you have desire for living beings, the reflection of 32 parts of the body should be used. Okay, and when the desire is towards inanimate object, then one should reflect on the ownerlessness or on the impermanence of things. Like there is no one, like no being, or like body itself, like anatta, the concept of anatta, no soul, no owner, and also how this life, how those things are impermanent. This way, we can work with this Chandupa Sanghita. And then Dosupa Sanghita is, Dosa is the anger. Chanda, okay, Chanda is again, we need to think like Chanda, Loba, Loba Dosa Moha, and over here Chanda Dosa Moha. And sometimes it is also mentioned like Raga Dosa Moha. So these three variations, different variations are there, but they are all the time unwholesome roots. Chanda dosa moha, loba dosa moha, raga dosa moha. They are all subtle variations with the same unwholesome roots. So chanda upasangitampi, desire for living being, the reflection of 32 parts of the body should be reflected, and those upasangitampi, for those for thoughts connected with hateful living beings. When you have hateful living beings, you have to apply the cultivation of loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and then again ownership of karma. So loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, they are part of the Brahma Vihara practices. When you have those or hatred towards someone, living persons, This one is really, really helpful. And then you can also think of how powerful is the karma when you practice. When you have ill will, when you have anger, when you have hatred towards someone, a living being, you will become the person to own that karma. You will be you will have to pay the result. You will have to punish yourself for that. Because of this, you need to be very careful how this uh, karma can affect us when we are angry. When you are angry, the karma can come to us in so many different ways. First of all, you are the one to be affected. And when you are angry, your body first will be affected. Your mind will be polluted. And your sleeping, your food habits, your day-to-day activities can be very badly impacted. So you need to be really careful about that. Now you see, owner of your own karma. You are the owner of your own karma. So thinking that we need to counter attack dosa or anger. Very helpful. Loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and also ownership of karma. Thinking that you should be able to focus on your dosa or anger. Um, how important it is to practice loving kindness in our day-to-day life. I think many of the people who are so busy today, especially due to many stressful situations today, many people have this problem. So we have to focus, we have to work on this. A lot of people easily lose their temper and easily get angry. So practicing loving kindness. Let's say like I'm not going to get angry today, the whole day, 24 hours. You have to think, you have to determine yourself, make some effort, and then practice loving kindness towards yourself. Very important. You need to practice loving kindness towards yourself first. And when you are full of loving kindness, wholesome thoughts within you, then you should be able to radiate, expand the territory of your loving kindness to all the other sentient beings around, especially for those people who are you have some trouble with. You have to pay attention to them. Maybe you can start thinking about yourself first, and then the near and dear ones, and then even the suffering ones, and then even the happy ones, and eventually you can go to the neutral ones, and then you can go to someone whom you really dislike, whom you have trouble dealing with. Think of such people one by one, or make a short list of those people. Maybe in the past you had some people. Maybe at present you have some people. You find it difficult. Think of them. Send loving kindness to them. First to yourself, and then slowly think of others. And maybe at the beginning you will have difficulty doing it, but eventually the more you do it, the more comfortable you become in sending loving kindness to all of them as well, even the unfriendly ones. It's not so difficult. It is not so impossible to do. It is really possible. So practice loving kindness can make your life all the more wholesome. Okay, so this one I really want to pay a little bit more attention. And compassion for the suffering ones. There are a lot of people in the world who need our help. They are less privileged people, people in poor countries, poor families. Think of them, and also people who are suffering due to some injury, some mental or physical uh, discomfort. Think of them. Those people who have lost their loved ones, please think of them. They are very, very important to think of them and practice compassion towards them. It is really important. Think of the homeless people. Last couple of days, I had the the opportunity to help some homeless feeds over here, and it gave me so much peace and happiness. And also when we were distributing those food and other items to those homeless people, how their face was so bright and they were so happy, and also many of them said thank you and God bless you. That made our day. It brings so much peace and happiness. So loving kindness, compassion towards those suffering beings is should be an integral part of our life. Equanimity again. Equanimity is even more difficult practice. Like a lot of people have difficulty dealing with um, many things, but when you grow old or when you mature in your life or in your practice, equanimity is the one that should help you most. And no matter what happens, you are not going to be shaken, mind unshaken. You should be able to practice that. The ownership of the karma again, we have in many suttas that talk about this ownership of the karma. So we need to focus on that as well. So Agahata Pativinaya Sutta is the one that explains these things. I think that will be very helpful. And so if you have hatred towards inanimate, sometimes this also happens to people. Like they get angry with their own things. Like maybe when they angry, they smash things and they break things and they don't like things. And sometimes even public properties, you want to destroy them. And let's say like some people sometimes in some countries, I think they also do that. Like somebody meets with an accident, so the other people do around, they flock together and set that vehicle on fire. So they have some really burning anger, jealousy, or something with them. So they really make maximum use of them together. They destroy that property. And we also notice in the recent past in many countries, a lot of people, they ransack shops and they also destroy public properties. That's not really something that we need to do, because eventually you, not only as individual but as a whole country, as a whole society, you see how everyone has to pay the price for that. So destroying public property particularly is not something good. And also your own property. Sometimes people, when they get angry, they destroy their own property. They smash the phone, maybe they smash the TV. Or when they are really angry, these things can happen. So those upasankita. And that time they need to, this is the practice actually have to do by the practitioners. But when you as a practitioner, if something happen like this in day-to-day life, if you have some angry feeling towards some inanimate things, analysis of the elements, dhatu avattana, can be really helpful. According to Mahahatipadopama Sutta, Maharahuluvada Sutta, and Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta, we can practice this. This is again a very important, very practical way to uh, work and counter these difficult emotions. And moha upasanghita means moha, like when we have moha or ignorance or delusion, again, we need to work on 5 dharma supports, or dhammopanisaya, it is called. So according to this, there are beautiful 5 teachings here. Guidance of a teacher is very important. This is called Garu Sangvasa. You need to have the guidance of a teacher. When you have moha, you don't know what to do. You are so confused. You have no idea. You have a lot of doubts. You need the teacher. You need the Garu Sangvasa. Guidance of a teacher is really important. So keep in touch with the teacher all the time in your life. This thing can happen in your meditation. Definitely, it can happen to you as well when you practice. Even after teaching, reading some books, maybe you go to practice. When you practice, it is completely different world. It's a different realm when you practice. It's not really the things that you find in the book that you experience when you meditate, when you sit. There are so many complicated things. So it's very important to have an experienced teacher, Garu Sangvasa, that can be very helpful. Intent on learning the Dhamma, this is called Uddesa. This again is very helpful if you are a practitioner, if you want to learn something more, if you want to clear your doubts. um, this learning Dharma, you need to think, I want to learn the Dhamma. I need to have that passion to learn the Dhamma. This intention is very important. And then you can actually get rid of the moha. An intent on inquiring into the meaning of doctrines learned. Uddita Paripuchana. So you already have learned certain things, but then again you need to inquire them, you need to analyze them, you need to investigate the meaning. Let's say, I think many people know about the Karaniyamitta Sutta, the discourse on loving kindness. Some people even know it by heart, learned it by heart. But then when you keep learning, when you keep investigating, when you keep repeating, there can be so many other avenues that you can explore. Same thing with the many people know how to recite Buddha homage to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, like Itipiso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho, etc. So in this case also, you need to focus, you need to learn, you need to pay attention to each and every one of these words. For example, Arahang, Arahoti Namena. So the Buddha is called Arahant. He is worthy. He is worthy of respect, worthy of donation, worthy of gifts, and he is worthy of paying homage. He is such an important person, and he is also worthy of um, many things. And Dakkineya, Ahuneya, Pahuneya, Dakkineya, Anjali Karaniya, we call. So the Buddha and also the Sangha, they are worthy of doing these things. And that is one way of calling Araha. And then again, there are other things like Buddha has completely eradicated all forms of kilesa, all forms of defilements. Therefore, he is also called Arahant. And another one very interesting thing is that Buddha has not done anything wrong, even in secret. This is the practice of the Arahanta people, liberated ones, enlightened ones. So, this teaching of Uddita Paripuchana again is a very helpful practice to clear our moha or ignorance. Listening to Dharma at proper times, Kalena Dhamma Savana, another very, very important, very, very helpful practice. You need to learn, you need to listen to Dhamma talks from time to time, at least few Dhamma talks a week. Very helpful to learn the Dhamma. And these Dhamma teachers, they have a lot of knowledge, they have read well, and they have learned the Dhamma well. So I think it will be very helpful for you to listen to Dhamma. They are enormous wisdom. They are profound understanding of the Dhamma after years, many years of practice can be helpful. They can be reflected on their teaching. So it is very important to listen to Dhamma. So we call Dhamma Savana. Inquiry into what are and what are not the causes. And this is called Thana Vinicce. So Thana Atthana Vinicce. Thana means what is to be done, and Atthana is what is not to be done. This again, we need to, Vinicce is the inquiry or judging. To know this thing, we need to investigate things. Again, we need to know, we need to inquire about these things. Then we can also get rid of the moha or ignorance. Okay, so by attending to different signs connected with the wholesome, those bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, delusion are abandoned. They disappear. Just by abandoning them, the mind indeed stands firm internally, settles down, becomes unified and concentrated. See what happens when you pay attention. When you meditate, you have some distraction, and then you distraction with the unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, or delusion. Raga dosa moha, lobha dosa moha, chanda dosa moha. These are always distracting us. So when it happens, you need to abandon them. You need to pay attention to a different sign. By abandoning them, the mind indeed stand firm internally. Te sang pahana ajhattameva chittang santitthati sannisidati eko dihoti. So santitthati means stands, and sannisidati firmly like settles down, and sannisid eko dihoti means like ekagata, becomes unified, and samadhyati, concentrated. So then the mind can be firm and settles down and unify and concentrate. So this is why we need to practice this. This is one method. Okay, I took little more time for this, and there is a beautiful parable for uh, every factor here. Parable of the peg. Sayeta bibikave dako palagandova palagandanteva siva sukumaya anya olarikang anyang aning abhinihaneya abhinihareya abhinivajjeya. Monks, just as a skilled carpenter or a carpenter's apprentice were to remove a large speck with a fine one, would pull it out. So the skillful carpenter knows how to get rid of the peg that you have. So when you see peg there, this should be the peg, something like this. Over here you can see with the arrow. So this peg, a skillful carpenter knows how to remove the peg with another smaller one. So with a smaller peg, the carpenter or the apprentice knows how to get rid of that. Similarly, when we have when the monk is attending to those signs, on account of which there arise in him bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, delusion, then that monk should turn his attention away from those signs, turning to a different sign connected with the wholesome. You see how unwholesome thoughts are replaced by wholesome thoughts. This is called Anyanimitta Pabba. By attending to a different sign connected with the wholesome, those bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, delusion are abandoned. They disappear. Just by abandoning them, the mind indeed stands firm internally, settles down, becomes unified and concentrated. And that is how the monk practices. The second one is called disadvantage or danger. Then monks should examine the disadvantage, the danger of those thoughts. Thus, itipime vitakka akusala. These thoughts are unwholesome. Itipime vitakka savajja. These thoughts are blameworthy. Itipime vitakka dukkha vipakati. These thoughts fruit in suffering. These thoughts bring us suffering. So you need to get rid of that. This is again another way of getting rid of uh, distraction. Sometimes these distractions happen. You need to focus. You need to know, oh, this one actually is not going to be good for me. It is not really helpful for me. It is unwholesome. These thoughts are unwholesome. I should not think of these. I should not have these unwholesome thoughts. In meditation, that can happen to you sometimes. And then you need to think, oh, this is an unwholesome thought. Let's say, like, suddenly you remember when you are meditating, suddenly you remember some um, um, some old unfriendly person, and you are full of anger. Anger can come to you. It's any of those emotions can come to you, and raga can come to you, dosa can come to you, moha can come to you, makka palasa, issa, machariya, all these things can come to you, like greed, hate, delusion, and then jealousy, fear, many of these things. Sometimes you meditate and suddenly you think of someone. You have this attukkansana and paramambana. Attukkansana is you elevate yourself and you look down upon the others. I am a better one. The other one is not so good. So these unwholesome thoughts can come to you. And so the practitioner has to think, oh, this is unwholesome. This thought is not good. So I have to get rid of this. And also blameworthy, savajja. This thought is savajja. This is not correct. This is not right. So I have to get rid of this. And this dukkha vipaka, these thoughts can bring me suffering, bring others also suffering. So I have to get rid of this. So thinking of this adinava or the danger, one has to get rid of suffering, get rid of those um, unwholesome thoughts. So this method was used by the Bodhisattva in Dveda Vitakka Sutta 2 in Majjhima Nikaya 19, just before this sutta. Reflecting on the unworthiness of the bad thoughts arouses sense of shame. Reflecting on their dangerous consequences arouses the fear of bad karma or tappa. So, fear and shame, or hiri and ottappa, they are called deva dhammas, dharmas of the devas, or the celestial, divine dharma. They have shame, they have fear, they don't want to do wrong things. So, like in the Vedas, Vitakka Sutta, you need to think of the reflecting uh, of this unworthiness of the bad thoughts. You can also get rid of this unwholesome thoughts happen. So, some of the things that can happen to us is we need to replace them, thinking of the dangers of them. Okay. So by attending to different signs connected with the wholesome, those bad and wholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, delusion are abandoned, they disappear. And by abandoning them, the mind indeed stands firm internally, settles down, becomes unified and concentrated. You see how the same thing, when you think of the adinava also, or the dangers, you can also get rid of this. And then there is a nice parable again in this. Monks, just as a woman or a man, a youth or a maiden, well dressed and fond of ornaments, would feel troubled, ashamed, disgusted by a snake carcass. a dog carcass or a human carcass hung around the neck. You don't want to do that. Sayathabe bhikkhave ittiva purisova daharo yuva mandana kajatiko ahi kuna penava kukkura kuna penava manussa kuna penava kante asattena attiyayya harayayya jiguccheya. So ahi kunapa is snake carcass, kukkura kunapa is dog carcass, and manussa kunapa is human carcass. And you don't want to have it on your body, especially let's say like ittiva puriso. Itti is woman, purisa is man, dahara is young person, or a little the yuva is a maiden or young. So they don't want to, when they are mandanaka jatiko, when they are well dressed, especially, you don't want, even otherwise, you don't want these carcasses hanging around your body. Just like this, this similarly, the same statement is mentioned in different suttas too. Ittiva purisova daharo, you are a woman or or a man, a youth or a maiden. In these different places also we can find Samanya Pala Sutta, for example, Mahasakuludaya Sutta, Akankeya Sutta, and Jataka Nidana Katha, we can find this as well. And then same thing like Attiyati, Harayati, Jigucchati. Attiyati is feel troubled, Harayati is ashamed, and Jigucchati is disgusted. Same thing like Nibbida. In many suttas it is mentioned like Nibbida, Virajyati, Viraga, Vimuchyati. When you are dispassionate about that, then you get rid of those things. You should be able to renounce viraga, vimuchyati, then you can liberate yourself, emancipate yourself. That's how it happens. So seeing this danger can also be very helpful. Over here you can see some well-dressed people, and then these well-dressed people probably would not like to have any of these carcasses on their bodies. So the carcass of a dog or a snake or a human, you don't want to have around you, around your neck. Just thinking like that, you have to get rid of this. Those things. Okay. Then we have Asati Pabba again, and here in this we also have in the third Sayatapi Bhikkave Puriso Tena Bhikkave Bhikkhuna Te Sang Vitakkam Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa Sankhara Saṇṭhāṇa Manasikātabban Tassa Te Sang Vitakkanam Vitakka Sankhara Saṇṭhāṇa Manasikarota to ye papaka akusala vitakka chandupa sanghitapi dosupa sanghitapi mohupa sanghitapi te pahiyanti te abhattang gachanti te sangpahana ajhattameva chittang santittati. So this is the same thing as we discussed before. And okay, over here, when that monk is examining the disadvantage of those thoughts, there are still arise in him bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, connected with hate, connected with delusion. Then he should not mind those thoughts. He should disregard them. So that is the disregarding thing. And not minding these thoughts, disregarding those thoughts, those bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion are abandoned. And by abandoning them, the mind stands firm, internally settles down, becomes unified and concentrated. Okay. Evameva ko bhikkhave bhikkhu te sampi vitakkanang asati amanasikarang apajyato uppajyanteva papaka kusala. That is the same thing. And then we have a parable again, parable of one with good eyes. Monks, just as a man with good eyes, not wishing to see sights around him within his visual range, would shut his eyes or look away elsewhere. Even so, bhikkhus, when that monk examining the disadvantages, those thoughts, there still arise in him bad, unwholesome thoughts, connected with desire, connected with hate, connected with delusion. Then, monks, that monk should get rid of those thoughts by not minding them, by disregarding them. So, as I mentioned in previously regarding the walking meditation, even in otherwise, you might see some distractions, and you just like you are. Um, when you want to see, when you see something, if you don't want, you can just maybe look around or look other side. You don't want to look at that thing that is distracting. So just like in meditation, in otherwise also, you should be able to do that. Similarly, you should be able to replace that. You should be able to get rid of that unwholesome thoughts, just like that. Like closing the eyes or looking aside can uh, divert your attention to something else. You can disregard that distracted thought. Okay, this is called thought reduction. Monks, when that monk is not minding those thoughts, disregarding them, they are still arising bad and wholesome thoughts. So still these things can happen to some people, connected with desire, hate and delusion. Then the stilling of thought formation for those thoughts should be minded by that monk by noting the causes of those thoughts. So this again, stilling of thoughts, thought formation. This is the Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa. Sometimes you need to practice this way, and then we can also get rid of the bad, unwholesome thoughts. The the parable here is like the walker. Monks, just as it would occur to a man who is walking fast, thus, but why now am I walking fast? Why don't I walk leisurely? So he walks leisurely. Then it occurs to him, why am I walking leisurely? Why don't I stand? So he stands. Then it occurs to him, why am I standing? Why don't I sit down? Then he sits down. Then it occurs to him, why am I sit down? Why am I sitting down? Why don't I lie down? So he lies down. So here it gives um, some kind of a comfort to you, like you are not torturing yourself. You are trying to uh, console yourself by doing the lesser difficult task. Like if you think like you are walking really fast, then you can think of the other way. Am I not going too fast? I'm like in our life also it can happen. Like we are too busy, maybe we are too fast, maybe um, this rat race, this fast pace is very, very uncomfortable to us, and too many things to do. And so we need to do it the other way around. Walking fast, then walk slowly. And if you walk slowly, you can think, why should I walk? I can stand. I can stop. Just like, remember the story of Angulimala, how the Buddha said to Angulimala, when the Angulimala was asking the Buddha to stop, the Buddha said, I have already stopped. You are the one running. And that gave him a tremendous upliftment, opened his eye. It was a U-turn for him. And that was the method that Buddha actually applied, the Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa thought reduction thing. So I am stopped. I have already stopped. You are the one running. So you have to stop. And the Buddha meant that he had literally, he had virtually stopped the entire circle of samsara. He has decoded the mystery of samsaric circle. And Angulimala is still running. He's not only physically, virtually running, but also he is running in this whole course of samsara. So the Buddha reminded him how important it is to stop. And that gave this very smart man, Angulimala, already a very smart guy, and he could open his Dhamma eye. He could come back to the right path. So when you walk too fast, maybe you have to stop. You have to go slower. If you think like you are still walking, then even slowly you can think of the other way. Oh, why should I not stand? And sometimes when you stand, you can think, okay, why should I not sit down? And when you sit down, you can think, okay, why should I not lie down? So this way, like reducing that weight, reducing that discomfort, make your mind more comfortable. And this way, we can also work on this. And in the last resort, sustain effort. Tassa dante bidhantamadaya jivhaya talunga hacha cetasa chittang abhinigganhato abhinipiliyato abhisantapayato ye papaka akusala vitakka chandupasanghitapi dosupasanghitapi mohupasanghitapi te pahiyanti te abbattan gachanti te sangpahana ajhattameva chittang santittati sannisidati ekodi hoti samadhiti. Now this is the last resort. Like if nothing works, you can think of monks. When that monk is attending to the stilling of thought formations, for those thoughts are still arise in him. They are still arise in him. Bad, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion. Then, monks, with clenched teeth, the tongue pressing on the palate, the monk should subdue, restrain, attack the unwholesome mind with the wholesome mind. So this is actually a very, very interesting technique. This is not normally happening in elsewhere, but Buddha has actually resorted to certain techniques like this. Imagine, like in the just before the enlightenment, the Buddha said, "No matter what happens to me, I'm not going to stand up. I am not going to give up my meditation until I attain the Nibbana." He had that last resort kind of determination that time. So here, Dante bhi dantang adaya. Sometimes in meditation, you keep meditating and you see like your mind is not really working better. And then that time you have to clench your teeth like this, and then you have to press your tongue to the upper palate, and then you make an effort. I'm not going to think of this. I'm not going to uh, have this unwholesome thought with desire, with hate and delusion. I'm going to get rid of these unwholesome thoughts. So the practitioner has to think like that as well. So when you do that, you can also get rid of that unwholesome thoughts. This is again, remember, it is a last resort. Just as a strong man holding a weaker man by the head or by the shoulder would subdue, restrain, attack. So sometimes a stronger man can weaken, like as a last resort. You try to avoid, and still you find it difficult to get rid of this man bugging you all the time. Maybe then the stronger man can, push that person away, just like that. So to get rid of that unwholesome thought, and the monk also sometimes has to use this method. Yeah. So this way, the sutta gives a very important practice. I think. Uh, so I want to take you back to the previous. Yeah. So how we get rid of these distractions. Anya thought displacement, and Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa aversion therapy, and amanasikara, non-attention or avoidance, and Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa, thought reduction or mental analysis, or Dante Bhidantang Adaya, sustained effort. By a different sign that is wholesome, you can also replace your wholesome thought. And by examining its danger, you can get rid of your unwholesome thoughts. By disregarding them, you can you can avoid the unwholesome thoughts. By stealing thought formations analysis, again, you can get rid of the unwholesome thoughts. And then the last resort, by teeth clenching and tongue pressing, you can get rid of these unwholesome thoughts. And again, I want to say these thoughts, these techniques have been mentioned by the Buddha in what do you call the so the Buddha did this as a practice, and it was really helpful. But from time to time, we have to use this method in our day-to-day life, also in our meditation practice. So I think with that, I want to conclude today's Dhamma talk. I hope this was helpful to you, and I definitely recommend you use these techniques to um, make your life more comfortable and make your meditation more comfortable. With that, we conclude, and I wish you all again. Today is Christmas Day. I would like to invoke blessings and also send greetings to all our Christian and Catholic friends around the world. Merry Christmas, and also our wonderful friends who joined today. I wish you all a very wonderful, peaceful, happy, healthy New Year, and also may all your meditation practice, may all your day-to-day lifestyle be smooth, and may you be able to overcome all the difficulties, all the distractions in your life with using these five factors in the Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa Sutta. With that, we conclude. Thank you. May you all be well, happy, healthy. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta. Let me see if we have any questions. Okay. All right. And thank you everyone for joining. And I think, let me see. Okay. Priyadashini Rasangika says these five approaches introduced Vitakka Saṇṭhāṇa Sutta are helpful to observe our backward emotions actively and analytically and mindfully without fight with emotions or without developing emotions. If someone do these repeatedly, then they can come out from psychological problems. Yes, that is right. Phobias, hysterias can be avoided. This sutta could be taken as a cognitive behavioral approach to a treatment plan for a psychological patient. Yeah, definitely there can be lot of benefits for people with psychological or even otherwise, especially for meditations practitioners. This is really, really helpful. Okay. All right. I hope again you a very wonderful day. And with that, we conclude. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And seeing Moonwolf. Thank you, Bhante. Have a Merry Christmas and Happy Healthy New Year. Yeah. Happy Healthy New Year to all of you. Peace and prosperity and well-being and happiness. With the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem, may you all be well, happy, healthy. May all your near and dear ones, loved ones, your relatives, your teachers, your elders, may all of them be well, happy, healthy. May all your day-to-day activities also be able to function smoothly. May you always live comfortably with peace, happiness, and good health. May all of you be able to practice the Dhamma, live with the Dhamma, and listen to the Dhamma, and also be associated with wonderful Kalyana Mitta friends all throughout your life, all throughout your samsara. May all of us and all sentient beings be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. With that, please keep your palms together close to your heart and say 3 times, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu. Sabbityo vivajjantu sabbaroko vinasatu mate bhavattvantarayo sukhe dighaayuko bhava. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sutti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada sutti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, everyone, and looking forward to seeing you again in the new year.